Alright, hello everyone, it's Wally and welcome back to the channel. So today we don't have a teaser, but ArenaNet put out a blog post. I kind of looked over the blog post and you guys will see uh, like why exactly this is actually significant. I didn't actually read any of it, but it seems like there's something in that blog post that's gonna make some people very excited. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. Oh, there's a train right on time. I hadn't had a train all morning, and then now when I'm recording, I'm a little out of breath because it is 100 degrees where I'm located, and yeah, it's kicking my butt. So, anyways, my AC can barely keep up. But anyways, so today let's talk about whatever blog post they have. It looks pretty long. I'm guessing this seems to be the blog post where it's like the in-between, it seems to be the one where they do that with every expansion where it's like, oh, this is what we learned from or we learned, where they're telling us they learned something. They won't go into specific. This is what I'm kind of like predicting right now, right? So like they'll say, oh, we learned all these things and we promise to do better and blah, 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 but they won't give us any specifics on exactly what they've learned and what they're going to do better in the future, right? So, because I saw like one part of it was like listening to the player base or something was like the title of it or something like that. But anyways, so I'm predicting it's going to be something like that. I'm not, obviously I'm just being cynical here, but the thing is that like ArenaNet has kind of given us that like that same tune over and over again. And I've kind of reiterated like, well, it's fine that they listen to the player base, but then it's like we don't really know in what regard they're doing it. What are the lessons they've learned? They've never given us really like specifics on anything. They're very vague. There was like, we've learned our lesson, and it's like, okay, and then we go into, and you guys will see this. I'm still working on the Janthir Wilds review. It's taking me a long time because I just don't have that much time during, my off time to do that. But I'm still working on Janthir Wilds review. But you guys will see that, like, I find that both Secrets of the Obscure and Janthir Wilds suffer from, like, the same issues. For the most part, when it comes to the story and the like characters and like that kind of part of it, right? And the thing is that like they gave us this whole rigmarole of like, oh, we've learned our lessons and we're gonna make all these changes or whatever going into Janthir Wilds, but then I find that the same issues persist. So it's like, okay, if you've learned a lesson, you didn't give us the details of what it was, so I don't really know if you guys learned any lessons because it doesn't look like it to me, right? Again, I'm not here to just sit here and criticize ArenaNet. There's many hardworking people at ArenaNet. I'm sure there's a lot of passion. There's no way that this game could have lived for as long as it has if there wasn't passionate people that knew what they were doing there, right? But the problem is that to us veterans, the issues become more apparent because we've just spent so much time in the game, right? So, anyways, let's go in. Let's read the article. I'll go through it with you guys. I'll give you my impressions. And like I said, there is definitely one part that you guys are really, really gonna, like many people, I think are gonna get really, really, really excited. At the very end, I saw something. So, all right, anyways, let's go in. So here it is. From the wilds to what's next. Hi, hey Guild Wars community. With the final content update for Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds now live, we've officially wrapped up our 5th expansion, which is the second build under the annual release model we introduced in early 2023. Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds tested how we tell stories, evolve systems, and deliver meaningful updates on a faster, more consistent schedule. Some things landed well, others not as much. Okay, so again, I gotta stop right here. Okay, so immediately, I will say, evolving systems, yes, they have been doing this. The Wizard's Vault was like the big one that they did, right? What's the one for Janthir Wilds? There was something for Janthir Wilds that they did that landed really well too. There are certain things that they've been like looking at, that they've been like certain systems. They've said rather than adding new systems, they want to rework older ones, and I think Arena has been on the right track with that specifically. I will say I'm pretty happy with that. deliver meaningful updates on a faster, more consistent schedule. Now that I will kind of call ArenaNet out on and just say that I don't think they have landed that. Okay, deliver meaningful updates on a faster, more consistent schedule. So first of all, they had pushed back one of the releases. Okay, so faster, not really, because we used to, during season, like Living World seasons, the updates were always 3 months apart from each other. There was always a 3 month break, so I don't know why they mean faster, because it seems to be like, yes, we don't get a Living World season, but your post launch updates are still in the 3 months, like 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, like schedule, right? So more consistent, I don't know about that either, because again, and I'm trying to just list the facts. I'm not trying to like, but if if you're gonna put a statement out there, at least be like, sure that that's exactly what it is, right? So first of all, they pushed back the Repentance release by 2 weeks, which isn't a big deal. I'm not saying like, oh my god, 2 weeks, like that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying if you're putting out a statement like that, then make sure that it's actually true, because that doesn't seem to be true. So more consistent schedule. So 2 week Repentance was 2 weeks late. It was pushed back 2 weeks. And then now this next expansion was pushed back by 2 months. So more consistent? I don't know if I really agree with that. I will say some things landed well, others not as much. I think that is a fair statement. I think we can all agree on that, right? So just like we did after Guild Wars 2 Seekers of the Obscure, we've been listening to your feedback and acting on it. In this blog, we'll share how those lessons are shaping our next expansion and the changes you can expect to see. This will give you helpful context as we unveil our next expansion next week. Okay, so we are getting the unveil. We're getting the unveil next week. So some people were a little bit they weren't like 100% on board with that. Like they weren't 100% sure that that's what was happening. But just so you guys know, they did announce that mid-July they would be doing the big expansion release, and they have been giving us the teasers leading up to next Tuesday. So a week from today, and they're confirming it right here. We're gonna get the new reveal. We're gonna get the name. We're gonna get the elite specs. We're gonna get where we're going, the basic premise of it, right? We're gonna see like footage of it, like that kind of stuff, right? We're gonna get the like what the features are, that type of stuff. We're gonna get the basic. If you guys have ever seen any of the Guild Wars 2 like reveal things of anything, like I feel like it started like that with Path of Fire, right? Path of Fire was like they put out a 30-minute, I think, video of like showcasing all the things, right? They've kind of stepped away from that, so now they do like 3 separate blog posts or something where they talk about specific things that are coming in the expansion. So they do one big blog post, and then they do a couple other ones talking about specific things in the expansion or whatever. They're probably going to do the same thing. By the way, you guys have voted on the YouTube channel, and you guys can still do that because, up until that point where the date, up until next Tuesday, I can always change it up. But I had a poll on my YouTube channel where I asked you guys if you wanted me to do it on a live stream or if you wanted me to do what I do right now, where I record a video and I analyze it all. And even though you can watch live streams after the fact, and I keep telling people that all the time because people are like, well, I'm going to miss the stream. I'm like, yeah, well, they're on my live tab. All of my streams are on my live tab. So you guys will never miss anything that I do ever. If it's anything related to Guild Wars 2 or whatever, I usually stream all of it and stuff like that. It's always on my live tab. But anyways, you guys wanted me to make a video, and it was just like a huge margin. It was like 90% of people wanted me to do a video. So I'm going to be recording a video for it. It'll probably be released that day. I don't know. The rendering takes a long time because I try to do like high quality rendering. So it takes a long time. But just so you guys know, I will be making a video on that. And I will do it pretty much just like I do now. We're going to go through, we're going to analyze a bunch of things. I'm going to probably pull up like the world map, and we're going to talk about like all kinds of things. So we're going to do that, just so you guys know. But anyways, so just like we did, so I'm guessing they're linking here to an old blog post where they talked about lessons learned and stuff like that. Again, it's really funny because while I do, and this is something that I keep reiterating all the time, it's like, it's fine that you listen to the feedback, but it would be kind of helpful to know what kind of feedback you're listening to, right? Because there's a lot of like, obviously, many people have a lot of things to say about a lot of different, like, people enjoy different parts of the game and they want to see different things, right? Like, and they want to see this and they want to see that and they want to see da 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 da. Some are reasonable, some are unreasonable, some are just like just crazy where it's just like that will never happen, right? Like, I've seen some people where they're just like, well, I want you to completely scrap the elite specs and go back to dual classing, which is something that I don't think will ever happen, right? I've had my thoughts on that, you guys know already. But the thing is that it's just like, it would be kind of nice to know which specific lessons you've learned, right? Because they're always like, yeah, we've listened to your feedback and we're letting it shape our next expansion. But it's like, but which part of hundreds of thousands of voices that are yelling into this echo chamber, like, what are you pulling out of that echo chamber and listening to, right? It would be kind of nice. But anyways, maybe they'll give us some details. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, and let's see, maybe they have some details. Okay, so charting Guild Wars 3, we get this cool little, this was one of the early images that they released from Janthir Wilds, and I still love this. I don't know if they've changed, like, it says Ortiz down here. Is that the artist? I really, I don't know if they got like new artists or whatever, but I have to say one thing that I absolutely loved in Janthir Wilds. All of the art, all of the concept art has been amazing. It is some of the best art I think that ArenaNet has ever put out for any expansion. Like, the art, the concept art has always been top notch for Guild Wars 2, always has, but I gotta say, man, the art that they've been pushing out with Janthir Wilds, like, I think back of the when we got Mistburned Barrens, right, with the bloodstone, and you get this like high contrast where you have the red bloodstone and the blue background, and it's supposed to be the golden lake, right? Like, oh, it's so good. It's just so good. I love it. Absolutely love it. So, definitely amazing. Like, there's another piece right here that we saw. Just so good. So good. All right. Charting Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds' legacy. Over the past 9 months, Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds brought a wide range of new experiences to Tyria. Across 19 story chapters and 4 new open world maps, the narrative explored the aftermath of the Elder Dragon era through a more grounded and political lens. Your choices helped shape the balance of power in a world learning to live without that existential threat, and uncovered ancient secrets best left buried. We brought spears to land combat, our first new terrestrial weapon type since the game's launch, along with a new set of relics that deepened buildcraft and expanded playstyle customization. So I think the land spears overall, I think compared to Secrets of the Obscure, I think the land spears overall were much better. I think I really like the idea of having weapon sets that have like their own kind of like mechanic gimmick to it, right? I like that idea. I think they did really well with it. I think many of the weapons are really good. The thing with relics is, and I've talked about this so many times, there's so many. The thing is with the upgrade components, the sigil, the sigils, the runes, and the relics. The problem is that they keep bloating the systems with so many of them, and 95% of all of those added into the game become completely useless. No one uses them because you find the meta ones, people go for the specific ones that are like the best for damage, the best whatever. So one of my things was always like that if they're looking at systems, one of the big ones that I want them to kind of look at, there's 2 specific ones that I want them to look at. One is the mastery system, which I think has been a mess since its release. And the other one is just the upgrade components. We've had some discussion on our Discord server about that as well. But I just really think that the way that they work right now, give me 1 second, you guys. The way that they work right now, it's just, there's so many of them and no one ever picks a majority of them. And there might be some niche uses for some of them, but overall, it's really not, I don't know. I don't know. I think the system is kind of weird, and when relics came into the game, I was really hoping that that would kind of maybe help fix some of the rune situations that we've had, but then it fell into the same hole like immediately during Secrets of the Obscure, where it's just like, okay. So anyways, but yeah, nonetheless, there has been, I think, One thing I will say that's been really good is I like the direction of where the balance patches have been going, right? Because they've been looking at, rather than just changing the numbers of everything, which they did for like the last 2-3 years, that's been, right, power coefficient was like the number one phrase that was used in any of the balance patches, right? It was just like power coefficient changes, right? That was mostly what happened. But now in these last two balance patches, they've really looked at like mechanical wise, they've looked at like, you know, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, and really changing things at the core, and I really like that. So okay, our endgame offerings were as well. We took on the game's first new raid in over 5 years, complete with challenge and legendary modes. We also introduced a new convergence encounter and a new fractal dungeon with its own challenge mode, adding more variety and goals to the PvE focused players. So I heard good things about the raid. I hope that ArenaNet can keep that going. I think people are really liking challenge mode and legendary challenge modes. Like I really, really think that ArenaNet has landed on something there. I think the hardcore community needs that, and we need the hardcore community to sustain the game, right? Because I just think that it's such a vital part of any MMO, and I want Arena to keep doing it. I myself, I don't raid. I haven't touched the new raid at all. I haven't raided in probably over a year now, and even then, I only raided like 3-4 times before that, within like the year prior or whatever. The convergence is fine. I have my thoughts. Like I said, there is a review coming for Janthir Wilds. You guys will kind of hear. I have my thoughts on the fractal dungeon as well, and I have some very strong feelings about the fractals. And you guys will kind of see that as well if you watch my review of that. Janthir Wilds also marked the arrival of homesteads, a major feature that brought player housing to the game. That was paired with a rework of the decoration system, updates to the Warclaw mount, to new legendaries, tons of new armor and weapon set, Wizard's Vault refreshes, and a long list of quality of life upgrades. And that's been great. I think homesteads have landed really well. People have been loving it. I've seen so many homesteads, like amongst the few, like my like small group of online friends that I have that kind of, play Guild Wars 2. They've created so many interesting, really cool things on top of all the stuff I've seen online. I think people really love it. If you guys ever watch any of my videos or my streams or whatever, you guys will see that my homestead is completely empty because I just removed everything and then I left it like that. And I was like, okay, cool. It's not for me. I maybe at some point in time I'll get into it. But right now, I really, the problem is the cost of it, right? Like one thing that's crazy is how expensive getting all these new decorations and getting all this stuff is. And I keep working on all these other legendaries and all this other stuff where I'm always like, I don't want to invest my money in this thing that I don't really care about, So maybe at some point in time I will, and maybe there will be like easier ways to secure some of those decorations or something, and who knows, they've talked about how they're going to expand on the homestead system, which is really, really nice. But I think it's that the homesteads, I think, landed really well, and I think it's one of the things that ArenaNet did really, really well. So it's really nice with the decoration system. The Warclaw mount I think is really fun. It's my new favorite to run around. It's always been, I've talked about this, I always loved the Warclaw even in PvE, even though it wasn't that useful compared to like, the Jackal or the Raptor or whatever, right? Or like the Roller Beetle, whatever. But now with these updates to it, oh my god, it's my favorite new mount. 2 new legendaries. I've seen a ton of people. There's a lot of if you guys have ever looked at, like, for the review, I was looking through the weapon and armor sets. There's so many that they added. So many with Janthir Wilds. A ton. So anyways, in PvP we built something new with your help. Push game mode. Yeah, so the problem, I still see the issue with it, right? Multiple public beta shaped directly by player feedback. Co-developing a competitive mode in a live environment is rare, and we're proud of what it represents. The final launch later this summer. Yeah, so the problem is, and I've talked about this before, my big issue with Push is what makes it so different from the other game modes that you're willing to really say, like, yeah, this is it, right? Like, because that's what they're doing, right? They're telling us, like, yep, push beta, like the push is, you know, we're so proud of it, we're so happy with. The problem is, you know, you can barely maintain the PvP as it is, right? Like we haven't seen new maps, we haven't seen like major updates to PvP. We've seen balance updates, right? But we haven't seen anything like, you know, Stronghold. Just so you guys know, Stronghold is still in the game and it hasn't seen updates since it was released, right? What makes push different from Stronghold? Are we gonna see support? Because ArenaNet is already struggling to support the game modes they have as of right now, right? World vs. World, struggling to even get that one update that we were looking for years, and then now it's kind of like I stepped away from World vs. World because I feel like the update wasn't really what they had promised. Because I was really looking forward to the alliance part of it, because that's what I wanted to do. I had friends, I had other people in other guilds that I wanted to make an alliance with, and now that has completely fallen to the wayside because of how this all works, and I've kind of stepped away from World vs. World, right? So I don't know. You know, some people are really liking the changes, some people are not really liking the changes, but the problem is that I think the biggest issue is that we haven't seen a consistent like flood of resources towards these specific game modes. And now you're adding another game mode. How is this different? How is this gonna, like, because you can't just release push and then say we've done it, you know, there it is, you guys have a new game mode, be happy, right? It's you're talking about a life service game, right? You're talking about a life environment. So the game is always changing. Balance is always happening. New elite specs are getting added to the game, right? There's new things that are happening to the game. How are you updating this, right? I want to see, my thing is, they've given us this schedule of the push beta, right? And the push betas and how this is all releasing and when it's coming out, right? Later this summer, the final version is coming out, blah, 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 all this stuff. But what's past that point, right? What are your plans past that point? Are you just gonna let it go, let it be free, and then turn into another? Because that's the problem that happened with Stronghold, right? They released Stronghold. They did, I think, one major update to it, or one or two major updates to it, within like a year of Stronghold releasing, and then completely dropped it. And now no one plays it. It's a game mode that still exists in game, but hasn't seen an update in 11 years, 10, 11 years now, right? So what makes push different? That's my question. God bless you. Janthir Wilds delivered a lot in a short amount of time. The momentum was only possible because of your passion, creativity, and honest feedback. And I love that. I love that. Janthir Wilds delivered a lot. Okay, I will say, and I will talk about that in my review as well. There was a lot of stuff. When you actually look at the amount of stuff that we got, it's a lot. Compared to like other MMOs and other games that I've seen, like I don't play a lot of other games, but I kind of follow like some of the development cycles and the like what they're adding, the news, right? The expansions, like what's going on, right? Like I'm on Reddit a lot where like kind of, you know, obviously you can't take everything, you know, you have to take it with like a giant pile of salt when you read anything from Reddit, because it's just you know, you never know. But from what I've seen, Janthir Wilds delivered a lot of stuff for just like 1 year of stuff, right? So it's really, really cool. And I love that they're crediting us for it. I mean, our creativity, passion. I mean, the thing is, people might think like, oh, why do you make videos if you're just gonna sit here and crap on it? Well, I do it because I care, right? I care about this game. I care about the community. I care about ArenaNet. Like ArenaNet has produced 2 games that I have spent the last, what, now 15, 16 years now that I've been playing this franchise, right? Like hundreds, no, well, thousands of hours, not hundreds, but like thousands of hours that I've spent in both games, right? So there's something like, I do have passion for this game, and this is where I'm coming from, right? Like it's all meant to be feedback and criticism, but it's supposed to be like I don't want the game to go down because I love it so much, you know? Finding the right rhythm. Janthir Wilds launched in August of last year, followed by 3 quarterly updates. After the first of those updates arrived in November, we heard consistent feedback from the community. The additional story content felt too short, and the lack of a new open world map made the update feel noticeably light. So that is something that in my review, I don't really talk about. So I guess I'm going to talk about it right here. Godspawn was really, really bad. Godspawn had three chapters that were added with Godspawn, which was the release in November of 2024. The first post release update or whatever. And the thing was that one of those chapters was one instance, and there was no open world map. It felt really, like I said, I do talk about that a little bit in my review, but the thing is that I think I was expecting Godspawn to kind of spruce up some of the initial 2 maps that we got, but it didn't touch it at all. And that was a little disappointing to me. So yes, it did feel very short. I do have a lot of other I want to see what ArenaNet has to say here, because I have a lot of thoughts on the scope of the story and how I think ArenaNet needs to kind of work on that a little bit, right? Similar reactions to Story Scope followed the second and third releases, signaling that the pacing and structure of these releases could better align with your expectations. See, and that's the thing. So in my review, I talk about how I think the scope is, they try to do too many things, right? Like halfway through Janthir Wilds, people lost interest when we started going to Bavanisos, and it was because we kind of abandoned all the people that, like, all the story threads that we had kind of dealt with, and we start dealing with like a whole slew of other things all of a sudden, right? And they did the same with Seekers of the Obscure, where the initial release had all these characters, all these stories, all these things going on, and then we completely abandoned all of that to start a new story. It felt like you're tying together 2 separate stories, but they're so loosely connected that they felt just like completely foreign to each other. But yeah, again, you'll have to watch my review for that once I get it done. I'm sorry I'm taking so long for it. For our next expansion, we're refining that structure to give each update more depth and impact. The first quarterly release after the expansion's launch will not include new story or map content. Okay. So will not include new story or map. Instead, we will focus on updates to core systems and long-standing features. Okay, interesting. How do you guys feel about that? Because I don't mind that. The problem is updates to core systems and long-standing features. So we're gonna get a break. We're gonna get a 6-month. How do you guys feel? There's a 6-month break between the initial release, the initial launch of the next expansion, and then getting more story and getting another map. 6 months. So just to give you guys a point of reference, why I stop myself, and I feel like this is just an evil cycle that we're kind of heading into, right? I'm not saying that we're not getting anything after 3 months, right? But the problem is they need to be more specific on what this particular part means. Because the thing is, if you guys remember, one of the biggest criticisms that Heart of Thorns got is that 6 months prior, we didn't get any updates to the game, and then 6 months after, we didn't get any updates. Everyone was talking about content droughts, right? I think content droughts are anywhere between 5 to 6 months of no content. You can call that a content drought in the MMO industry, I think. If you don't get anything like 3 to 4 months, like after something has released, like something, right? Then it kind of feels like there's no new content. So for me to be okay with this, I would need to know specifics on what they mean by updates to core systems and long-standing features. Okay, so because otherwise I would kind of feel like we're getting 6 months of nothing, right? Because if it's going to be updates to core systems, that doesn't change. Like if it's, for example, I can't even think of anything right now, but if it's something like super insignificant where they're like, oh, we're updating this to make it feel better. Like, for example, the Wizard's Vault, for example, right? It was a great update to the system, but did it really change what I do on my everyday basis? Not really, you know what I mean? Like, we added weeklies in there, right? That was a new thing, right? But I get my weeklies done within like a couple hours. It was nice to get passive rewards for logging in. So it was a great addition to the game, but it came with updates to the game as well, right? Like the system itself, the Wizard's Wild wasn't just added and then nothing else was added. It was added alongside story chapters and maps and blah blah blah. So it kind of felt like, oh, okay, cool. Like this is like a, this is kind of like an addition, a feature that's added in the stuff that's already coming. So if you're doing a release that's just about that, is it gonna feel like a content drought? Like, what do you guys think? Do you guys think it's gonna be significant enough to say, okay, well, and I understand where they're coming from because they're talking about sustainability of how they want to do things, and that's fine. The problem, like, my biggest issue wasn't that we didn't get a new map, and you guys will hear this in my review as well. My biggest issue wasn't that we didn't get a new map. The problem was the scope of the story changed. And it just, they started doing something completely different once we went to Mistborn Barrens and Bava-Nissos. And the issue also was that Bava-Nissos was kind of crap. Like that whole Absolution release wasn't good. So it was like the ending of it kind of sucked too. So it wasn't necessarily that the first update was just bad, but it was just like, people had these expectations, and then we went into the first post-launch release, and it was just like, blah, and then after that they didn't pick back up. It kind of just kept going down from there, so I think it's we can't just look at the one release and say, well, this one wasn't good, let's try to fix that. It's how the whole rest of the 9 months went, right? This approach gives us a space to revisit foundational elements of the game, improvements that support the long-term health of Guild Wars 2 and reflect the design philosophy outlined in Building Smarter Not Bigger section below. Okay, so the thing is, one last thing that I'll say about this is that I think they need to also, like, if you're not adding new story and you're not adding new maps into the game, right? Like I said earlier, I think the game, like if Godspawn didn't add a new story chapter, which would have been perfectly fine, whatever, right? They could have done it in different ways or whatever. If they had like finished the Decima, Aura, and Greer story, like, defeating those Titans with the initial launch, if they had done that, right? And then taken the Godspawn release and instead added new things to the already existing maps, I think that would have been much, much better. I think that would have landed much, much better, right? Because when you look at Janthir Sentry, there's a lot of issues with Janthir Sentry. I talk about that in my review as well, but I think, so if they can do core systems and long-standing features like updates to those, but also look at what you have already released and maybe spruce those up, I think I could see this work. Anyways, we get a really cool concept art of a new region. Looks really cool. So, what do I think? So the first thing that I think about this is, well, obviously I don't know if this is about the new expansion, but it looks to be, right? So cliffs with water coming down. I don't know if this is supposed to be like, it doesn't really speak snowy to me. But these trees don't look tropical. So the whole thing was that with these teasers and stuff, I've kind of talked about how I think it's going to be like a tropical theme and stuff. This doesn't look tropical to me, so that's very interesting. But we get some high cliffs. A lot of people were saying Dazalana or Zalana or whatever, the region in Alona, where the Harpies are from. A lot of people have been kind of betting on that being the new region. I could see this fit. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I mean, obviously this is like a field of like, not flowers, but like grass or whatever, right? With some water down here and stuff. And there's a guy hanging out with a spear. I could see this fit in Zalana, whatever, however you pronounce it. But is that what it is? I don't know. This looks really cool though. I do love it. It gives me cool vibes. How would that tie into like features? Like, are we thinking like, what could be one thing that we've talked about on the Discord server is, and actually in my live streams too, we've talked about this, climbing. I kind of want to see climbing. Like I'm the type of person, when I play through it, right, like I always stream whenever a new release comes out. I stream them and I hang out and I take my time with them, right? Like I don't I don't take like days to go through it, but I usually take like a whole stream to go through like one map at a time, right? Like I do like a 4 or 5 hour stream and I go through the whole map and I just do stuff on that map, right? I do achievement, like I go through, do the story on just that map, go through all the things, blah blah blah. But what I try to do is I try to not mount up, because I feel like mounts kind of ruin that first experience of like the awe and the wonder, right? Like if I go on my sky scale and I just fly through the map to where I need to go to the next story step, it kind of shortens the whole experience. It kind of doesn't make it feel like a journey, like an adventure. It kind of makes it feel like a chore. Oh god, I got to get to the next story step so I can get the story done. Like that, you know? So like we've been talking about like climbing, right? Like climbing up walls and stuff like that would be really really cool, because that would allow me to not have to mount up, right? Mounts are the only thing that are going to get me up cliffs right now, right? But if I see cliffs like this and I think about like the feature being climbing somewhere, which I think is probably is going to land not well at all with a lot of people, but it's kind of the like adventurer spirit in me where I'm like, oh, I want to climb this mountain, and I don't want to do it on a mountain because then I feel like it's almost like cheating in a way. I'm like, no, I want to climb up there. I want to see what's going on, you know? So that would be really cool. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about all of this, right? It looks really cool. I love it though. By focusing on story and map development in the second and third quarterly updates, we're able to make those releases more robust and satisfying. Each will introduce a larger, more content-rich map and a longer, more fully developed story that the players saw in the equivalent Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds updates. More than what the players. I think I misread that. I'm sorry. So this is in my review. That is exactly what I want. Okay, I will tell you guys my message in my review at the very end is pretty much exactly that. I want to see more compact stories. I want to see more focused on specific characters. Don't have all these other characters from all over the place kind of like mingle in the story. Like pick a few characters, stick with them through that whole expansion, right? Give us that character development that has meaningful and have it pay off at the very end, right? And don't just like have all these characters from other expansions and this story here and this story here, and we're gonna wrap this up, we're gonna wrap this up, we're gonna wrap this story up, we're gonna bring this item back, and we're gonna wrap that story up. There's too much going on in these releases, okay? There's too much happening, and none of it feels meaningful because there's so much of it, and they're just trying to finish all of these things up. So I really like this. I really, really like this. This is a great statement. This is fantastic. I'm really hoping that we're not getting another Absolution release. Absolution was not good. Oh, sorry, guys. Absolution was not good, I think. But I love this. I really, really, I love this. And this is the kind of specifics that I'm looking for, right? They're not being too transparent, where they're telling us every little detail, but they're telling us specifically exactly what they're looking at. So I like this a lot. While the total amount of story content across the expansion is increasing modestly, okay, interesting. So they're actually adding more story to it. The bigger benefit is how much more meaningful each individual release will feel, because the story content overall will increase, but they're not releasing story with the initial post-launch release, meaning that what did they say? 17 chapters or whatever? 19 chapters? What did they say? I don't even remember. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, that's a lot. Like, if they want to, because the story itself, that's one thing. The story itself wasn't that it was too short or whatever. But like I said, I think it's tried to do too many things. You know, we're addressing all of, and Janthir Wilds, we're addressing all of these different issues, right? We're not just talking about the White Mantle and the origin of the White Mantle in the village of Gavril. We're talking about the Bloodstone. We're talking about the Mursat side story of prophecies. We're talking about the history of the Mursat and the Seers and the war they had. We're talking about Yagan, who was like this rival type person to Isgarin. We're talking about Waiting Sorrow's story. We're talking about the Scepter of Or, Livia and Anise. We're talking about Sivas and Maban. You know, we're tackling, you know, the three White Mantle, the Titans themselves, the Foundry, the Tyrian Alliance, like the Lowland Coden in general. Like, we talk about all of these different subjects, all of these different things, in such a short amount of time, and it's like you can't really give it enough focus if you're just sitting there and you're just like, okay, this, and we're gonna like finish this off somehow, right? Like, okay, Mabon says goodbye and he's taking the scepter with him and it's in the mist. Okay, we're done. Next, right? Like, we're just kind of like trying to finish, like, we're just trying to kind of finish off all these different stories and just kind of sending that off just so we're done with it. But it doesn't feel, that doesn't feel it doesn't feel, I can't really put a word to it, but it doesn't feel like that's what they deserve, these different things, right? But anyway, so I do like this. I do like the that we're getting more story. I mean, that's fine. The bigger benefit of the movie is along with the scope improvements to the open world maps. So I do like that as well. So one thing, you know, I think that both Bavanisos and Mistborn Barons felt pretty barren, ha ha ha, when it comes to like the actual content of it, right? It felt very boring. The events were very just cut and dry, right? Same with Janthir Sentry, to be honest. Janthir Sentry has 6 spawn locations where you have to collect the meat and the pomegranates or whatever, right? Or the carrots or whatever it is, right? Like depending on which the event. There's 6 of them. And then defeating the elemental events, there's 4 to each of the 2 variants that are. There are regular elementals, there's 4 spawn locations, and then the Bloodstone elementals, there's 4 spawn locations. Like, that's very boring and that's very uncreative and that's very not what Guild Wars is about. So anyways, this approach allows for more complete and satisfying story arcs, and it results in a net increase in total content delivered over the course. So that's nice. I like this. This is really good. This is exactly what I'm kind of asking for. We'll have to see how this plays out. We'll see if they're true to what they're stating here, but it sounds like they're really understanding what the bigger issue was with Janthir Wilds, and I like that. So building smarter, not bigger. So I like this a lot because I've been calling in my review, you guys will see in the review I talk about I want less maps because I want them to be more like, I want them to be full of content, really fun content, variety of content, and different things to do. But you know, just because adding all these different maps, the thing is, there is this weird stigma that has been in the Guild Wars community for a long time. It was like that early on in the game where we didn't have enough maps, okay? And which was true early on in the world of Guild Wars 2. There wasn't enough maps because we only had a few level 80 maps, and then even when they added South Sun Cove, there wasn't anything to do. And then like they tried to fix that, you know, after that. The problem is now we have so many different maps with so many good content that it's hard to compete with those, right? And we see like how Gyaladelph turned out. Gyaladelph is not necessarily a bad map by itself. Like, the rewards are pretty decent. It's a beautiful map. There is some variety to it, right? There's like different things to do. The thing is that I think it just competes with so many way better meta maps and stuff that it really kind of just has lost its charm really early on, and no one runs it anymore. And that's kind of a shame, right? So I want them to release less maps and make them more meaningful, right? And I think that's exactly what they're saying here. One of our biggest priorities right now, and likely for years to come, is untangling years of accumulated system complexity. That means streamlining overlapping systems, reducing technical debt, and reinforcing what makes Guild Wars 2 shine. This complexity doesn't just slow us down behind the scenes, it also makes onboarding harder for new and returning players, even in areas designed for seasoned adventurers like Endgame PvE. Just, there's not much to say. I mean, that's been something that onboarding harder for new and returning players, and that's the thing, like, you keep adding all these new systems in the game, but then your core game doesn't change ever. So it's really hard because bridging point A to point B now, right? Point A being the core game to point B being the expansion maps is really tough because the expansion maps have just moved on so far and have done all of these different things that core has never had. So we've been talking about like going back to core, you know, on my streams and stuff. We've been talking about like going back to core and fixing that, but is that what they're doing? I don't know. Features like the Wizard's Wall didn't just offer something new, they replaced daily achievements and login rewards with a streamlined, modern alternative. Weapon Master Training and legs were built to expand existing build systems. Homesteads and the decoration system overhaul also improved guild halls. We also updated core mount systems during both expansions, with refinements to the Sky Scale and Secrets of the Obscure, and improvements to the Warclaw and Janthir Wilds. Each change was designed to strengthen features you already use and love. And I like that. Like, I think that's one thing, like I said, stop adding new systems. You have plenty of systems in the game. Just look at them, right? Like, just look at the systems you have in game and just improve on those. And I think the Wizard's World is a prime example. While I think the decoration system is fine, and I like the system overhaul we saw there, right? And I like the improvements that we saw on the Warclaw and the Sky Scale. Sorry. I think that, I think the most significant change was the vault. I think because that is something that people interact with on a daily basis. Like any player, right, interacts with that, right? Any player interacts with that system. And it was a great change. I really, really like it. And it feels streamlined, and it feels very modern, and it feels really good. I really, really like it. They could do even more with it. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think there's some changes that they could add to it. They're still good, but they have a base system that if they eventually want to look at it again or expand on it, if they have extra resources, they can do that. And that's really, really good, right? We see one of the homesteads here. This is, I don't think this is new content. This is old content. So I don't know. Is this picture old? Is this a Janthir Wilds picture? Am I just going crazy? I don't remember ever seeing this, but we've only seen so far Janthir Wilds pictures. So is this a Janthir Wilds? This kind of does look like Lowland Shore a little bit. So maybe that's what we're looking at. Maybe I'm just crazy. That's okay. You guys can call me out on that. New systems. Yeah, okay. Support for newly introduced features doesn't end at launch. Since the Homesteads feature debuted. It's a debut, but debuted? I don't know, it's weird. We've continued to expand and refine the system with new decorations and quality of life improvements, including an increase to the overall decoration and cap in the final Janthir Wilds release Absolution. In our upcoming July 15th release, we're doubling the decoration area limit from 200 to 400. This directly addresses one of the most common requests we've heard from you. You can also expect to see continued support for the Homesteads feature in our next expansion as we build on this foundation. Lovely. I think this is great. Building on a system that has landed so well with players and really listening to what the things are that people want to see. This is great because this is gonna be really for the future, right? Like people are always worried about like what's the next step? What's the next thing? Are we gonna completely abandon it? But apparently they're not doing that, right? And they're like doubling this stuff here. They're doubling the overall thing they did recently, the decoration limit and stuff. So this is really good. I think there's gonna be a lot of people that are very, very excited about this. And yeah, I'm happy for them. These kinds of changes may not always grab headlines, but they make the game easier to understand, easier to maintain, and more enjoyable to play. Just as importantly, they reflect what many of you have asked us to do. Focus less on introducing entirely new systems and more on refining and modernizing what we already have. That's a direction we believe in and one we're proud to continue. Oh my god, it's just like Christmas morning to me right here, listening to these words. It's just like, I'm gonna record myself saying it. I'm just gonna listen back to it over and over again because it's so charming to listen to. Not my own voice, but just what they're saying here. Because I love this. This is like exactly what we've been asking for. This is exactly what Guild Wars... I think this is what Guild Wars 2 needs right now. Guild Wars 2 doesn't necessarily need new things all the time. Like, reinventing the wheel gets old as well, right? And the thing is, like, the issue in this day and age, like, gaming industry is such a crazy part of this world right now where like all these studios are closing down, all these games are getting canceled, all of these sequels and remakes and whatever, everything is getting canceled, and and it's just crazy. There's so many people getting fired, and it's so sad to see, right? Because that many of those people, they're not just there to collect the paycheck, but they're there because they have a passion for doing it, right? And they just, and what it comes down to, the big companies and to the big publishers and stuff like that is always the bottom line, and it's so sad to see, because it's like that's not what gaming is about, right? Like that's what it's never been about that, right? But that's what it's come to, right? That's what it's been, you know, over the last 20-30 years. Gaming has become this like huge phenomenon, and this huge business, and now it's all about the money, right? And so reinventing the wheel is a dangerous thing to do, because if you keep doing that and you keep trying to reinvent the wheel and it doesn't land properly, which we have now seen with Guild Wars 2 a few times, then that might spell doom for a company. So what we have in Guild Wars 2 is good, right? I think for an MMO, it's really, really good. But just refining those systems, I think, is a better idea than trying to gamble with reinventing the wheel, right? So I think this is exactly what right now in this day and age Guild Wars 2 needs. If Guild Wars 2 is their focus, they need to strengthen the experience that is Guild Wars 2, and I think that's perfect. New tricks for every trade. Is this a little hint at the swindler, the card playing elite spec? New tricks for every trade. Over the past 2 expansions, we've expanded options for combat by giving you more tools to customize your builds and play your way. Guild Wars 2 Secrets of the Obscure introduced new weapon proficiencies for every profession and separated relics from runes to deepen build crafting. The addition of Weapon Master Training was also a major step forward in allowing players to freely mix and match elite specialization weapons across builds, and the addition of Lance Spears offered a new weapon for every profession to use, which was, you know, yeah, great. Yes. No notes. With our next expansion, we're taking the next step. Elite specializations are making a return. This time designed to work together with the flexible build crafting system we've been refining over the past few years. Ooh, I like it. However, these new specializations won't come with dedicated weapons. Okay, here it is, guys. No new weapons. I'm okay with this. Just so you guys know, I am okay with this. I am not in tears. I'm not crying about it, because we have so many weapons, but let's just see. Instead, each one introduces unique profession mechanics, which is always the case. A new trade line, always the case. Utility skills, healing skill, and distinct playstyle without locking into a specific weapon or equipment loadout. Okay, I feel like, okay, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Reading that sentence. Instead, each one introduces unique profession mechanics, a new trade line, utility skills, an elite skill, a healing skill, and distinct playstyles without locking you into a specific weapon or equipment loadout. So 90% of that sentence is true already anyways of elite specializations. Every elite specialization up until this point has added new profession mechanics or some kind of way of interacting, specific, like creating new unique mechanics for that profession, a new trade line, utility skills, elite skill, a healing skill. Every single one has done this. This is not news. What my question is, what do they mean by distinct playstyles without locking into a specific weapon or equipment loadout, right? So, like, do we not need to use a specific weapon? The thing is that you look at many of the elite specializations, and they don't need a specific playstyle, right? Like, that's the thing. It's I don't know. I feel like when I look at something like the Druid, for example, they've recently, you know, they went back and changed it to the point where you can do a condition based Druid, right? So it's like, you don't have to be a healer, you can be a condition based, right? So that's already there. For most of the elite specs, it doesn't have to be a distinct play style. Or it doesn't lock you into a specific equipment load or weapon. Or already, like, I don't know. I don't know what they mean by this. Is this something new, or is they just reiterating what elite specializations are anyways? These new specializations are designed to feel fresh, fun, and unique to Guild Wars 2, while building on the systems you already know and love. We'll have much more to share soon. I'm excited. Yeah, I guess all of these images are Janthir Wilds. I just didn't remember this image. I'm going to be honest with you guys. So forget what I said. I don't think Desalana is coming. I'm still with the tropical thing, guys, okay? Still the tropical thing is what I'm hoping for. We're not quite done yet, so let's keep reading. Challenging the challengers. The launch of the Mount Belrior raid was just a development milestone for us. With both legendary and challenge modes, it was a long-awaited return for players eager to take on high-end group content. It marked a turning point in our ongoing effort to revitalize endgame PvE. Over the past few years, we focused on delivering meaningful, replayable encounters across both raids and strike missions. Most recently, we returned to our encounter design roots with Kinfall, a new fractal designed in direct response to player feedback. With Kinfall, we stepped back from the raid-like complexity of recent and focused instead of creating a streamlined, repeatable experience that captures the feel of early favorites. The challenge mode arrived a few weeks later, offering both accessibility and difficulty. Okay, so since they are talking about the fractal here, I just got to address it. So in my review, the thing is that, yes, I do like that. I do like the returning to the story focused, like longer dungeon version. You know, it's not like super system complex and like, you know, very boss mechanic heavy, right? Like where it's all just like crazy all the time in raids, you know, or in fractals, where it feels like a raid, you know. The thing is that and again, this wasn't, and you guys will see what I'm talking about like in the review, but the thing is that they took a part of the Bjorn Marches map, just blatantly cut it out of the Bjorn Marches map, and then just put new enemies and a reused enemies and a reused boss in it and call it a fractal. Okay, now, did I mind that? I didn't mind it too much. It felt like a Dragon Response mission. You know, it was something like, you know, I kind of like bringing back some of the maps that maybe we haven't seen in a few years and kind of like taking a part of it and making a dungeon out of it. Like, I don't mind that idea, okay? The problem is that if, and again, I talk about that in the review. If that is how we're doing the fractals, why are we only getting one fractal a year? Like, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, because that is not a lot of effort that's put into the fractal there. Like, it is literally cut out of BR Marches. The boss is cut out from Icebrood Saga. The enemies are cut out from like across all of Guild Wars. There's nothing that's really like, ooh, that's brand new. Right? There's nothing in there that's really like, this is a new location, this is a new animation, this is a new whatever. Like, it all is reused. There's barely any voice acting. There's barely any lore in it. So why are we only getting one a year? If it's such low effort, we should be getting a few more than that. That's my only criticism that I had of it, because it's like, I was really, really excited to see the new fractal, and really, I was hoping that we're gonna get something like the Dwarven Ruin ones, right? Where like we go into this like cool like underground dungeon, and there's all these like cool things and like lore implications and whatever, but we didn't get any of that. And I was just like, well, this doesn't take a long time to really make, I feel like, you know. That's what it felt like to me. So anyways, looking ahead, we'll continue to expand our in-game content, including new encounters complete with challenge and legendary modes. Like that, love it. Raids, like I said, I think raids are super important in a game like this, so I'm happy with that. But just as important as adding more is making that content that more approachable. Blah, 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 blah. But just as important as adding more is making that content better, more approachable, and more rewarding to return to. I like that. Yes, make that content better, please. In the first quarterly release of an expansion, that means unifying raids and strike missions into a more consistent structure, improving onboarding for new players, and reworking parts of the UI, streamlining rewards, and investing in systems that help group content feel easier to step into and more meaningful to stick with. In the first quarterly, so this earlier where they were talking about, I don't even remember what it was, but where they were talking about the not releasing anything during the first quarterly update, no map or whatever, no story, and they want to. So it looks like, you know, they want to improve on old systems. So it looks like they're looking at unifying raids and strike missions. Changes to UI. Does that mean like looking for group is going to be changing? Streamlining rewards. I mean, streamlining rewards is whatever. Investing in systems that help group content feel easier to step into. Like, to me, they're saying looking for group is going to be looked at. It looks like they're going to be unifying strikes and raids into some kind of same structure thing, same accessibility thing, and maybe doing the looking for group. Like, do you guys think there's gonna be some kind of like way for us to like queue up for like strike missions and raids or something? Like, I don't know. This looks very interesting. I'd be very excited because I myself have not stepped into strike missions or raids in a long time. So I would love to see this because that might make me step into that, right? So I'm okay with that. We want Guild Wars 2's endgame to be something anyone can grow into, whether you're joining your first organized group or aiming to master every challenge we throw your way. So here we go. Expansion announcement. Yeah, we've already seen this, right? They showed us this. This was Absolution. This was the Absolution thing. Not a lot on here. We talked about that. There was some comments from you guys as well. When we did the last blog post, there was some people were like, yeah, this is like a really, like, I thought it was just me when I talked about how bare bones this was. But people were like, yeah, this is really bare bones. There's not a lot happening. And I do agree. It really depends on how they're carrying the expansion announcement, right? The question is, what are you doing with the expansion announcement? Are you going to give us like every week something new? Because we still have, by the way, when July comes out, we still have like, what, 2 more months? Like August, September, and then October, like 2.5 months before we're going to get the new expansion coming out. So 2.5 months of like just this, just these few things. I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes, right? So what comes next? We're going to talk about this at the bottom here. Janthir Wilds helped us learn to push harder, where to simplify, and how to better listen to the needs of our players. Your feedback didn't just resonate with us, it reshaped how we're thinking about the game and how we're building what's coming next. I love that. It's great to have a company that does take feedback. Like I said, it's not about they're taking feedback and, and we don't know what it like, but it's good in general. It's good to take feedback. Many companies don't do that, and that's why they fail, right? So Arena is taking the feedback and they're like, nope, we're gonna build this game for the player base. And in this, I will tell you guys, in this blog post, they've given me exactly the specifics that I want. You don't have to be super transparent on all the technical things and all the very specific things that you learned from, but just tell me in general, like, what are the specific things they've learned? And they've learned exactly the things that I've had, like, myself personally, as criticism of Janthir Wilds. So mark your calendar. You'll get the first look at the expansion on July 15th. Thanks again for your passion and support and your belief in this world and in the people who bring it to life. And that is so sweet, because that is, that, I don't know, it's so weird. It's so weird when I tell people that I know more about the world of Guild Wars than I know about the world that I live in. It's weird, and that's just how my brain works, but that's how it is. See you next week. Thanks for reading this so far. Here's another teaser for your troubles. So, here it is, you guys. This is the moment that everyone has been waiting for. ArenaNet is confirming 2 specific things that people have been asking for years, okay? For years, people have been asking for these specific things. So what are we looking at? So for those of you that are just Guild Wars 2 players, we're looking at 2 specific professions from Guild Wars 1, like concept art drawn of these 2 specific professions, okay? So in Guild Wars 1, and I'm actually, you know what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna pull this up. I'm gonna pull up what we're looking at, okay? So give me 1 second, you guys, because I didn't even think about doing that. So there was Guild Wars 1 had very unique professions, okay? They had very, very unique professions that felt very, they were, like, really liked by people, okay? And 2 of those were the Paragon, which is this guy right here on the left, okay? And then on the right, we have the Ritualist, okay? So many, many people have been asking for those to be coming back into the game, right? So when the spears were announced for Janthir Wilds, many, many people were so excited because they're like, that meant the warrior might get like this Paragon thing, right? The Paragon, and let's read about it. Let's read about these professions and why people love them. We'll talk about that a little bit here at the end. So let's start with the Paragon. I'm gonna pull it up here. I want to make sure that looks good for you guys. Yeah. So the Paragon were the spear wielding warriors from Elona. Okay. If you guys know the Paragon, right? So you know Sun Spears, right? Now Sun Spears originally were this army that was supposed to protect all of Ilona, right? They were this military force for all of Ilona, even though each of the provinces, meaning Istan and Korna and Vabi, they all had their own like kind of armies, but the Sun Spears were not associated with any of them. They were like the policing force of like all of Ilona, right? And they were the ones that went to war and stuff like that. So so as you guys can see, they were these warriors that were these spear and shield. That's what they would wield, a spear and shield. Like, you can't see a shield here, which is a little disappointing, I will say. We don't see a shield, but they were spear and shield wielding warriors from Ilona. This is pretty much what their armor looked like. They were clad in white and gold accents, and they used shouts. Okay, so they used leadership, affected by shouts, right? So they would gain energy if by each ally affected by shouts. So they would be these commanders. They would sit like long range. They would throw their spears and they would use shouts to help support. Either do like positive effects where they would give you like burning on your next attack or something like that, or they could cleanse you of whatever ailed you, with their shouts, right? But that's what they were all about. They were about like motivation was like the healing line, spear mastery was all about like throwing their spears, command was all about just like and you can read it, many Paragon, especially those that protect your allies and increase tactical position on the battlefield, become more effective, right? So that's what they were all about, and people loved them. People loved playing Paragon. I myself recently, as you guys know, I've been playing through on my streams through Guild Wars 1, doing the dungeons and stuff right now. And I play a Paragon, and I really, really enjoy the Paragon. It's really cool. So, but that's the profession, right? And these golden wings. So many of the, you guys will kind of know these wings, right? These illusionary wings. Many of the spells, many of the things that they used. So if we go through, I wonder if I can find something. So like anthems and stuff like that. These specifically that had these like weird backgrounds. They almost look like signets in a way. These were like anthems. They would cause when you would cast that ability, they would cause these wings to appear behind you, right? These golden wings behind you. And that's what that's referencing right here, these golden wings and stuff like that. So that's the Paragon. Looks like that's going to be one of the elite specializations that's coming back, okay? So very excited. Many people really have been wanting this. The other one was like dervishes. So with each standalone campaign that came after the initial release, they added two professions to the game. So with factions, it was Ritualist and Assassin. We're going to look at the Ritualist in a little bit. Assassin was pretty much like the Thief, the predecessor to the Thief, where they can kind of like shadow step around, and they were like these ninjas. There was almost like ninjas where they were like, they were these assassins, and they were dagger wielding assassins, and they could jump around and like shadow step and do all that stuff. And we're going to look at the Ritualist in a minute. With the Ilona release, which was Nightfall, we got the Paragon and the Dervish. Now, the Dervish were the scythe wielding, right? You can kind of see they were wielding these scythes. They had these like long, like, I don't know, clothes on, whatever, right? But there were these mystical powers. They had these mystical powers. They were connected to the human gods. They could kind of channel the human gods and stuff like that. And they were like, maybe like even attuned a little bit with nature, because you see there's like earth prayers and wind prayers and stuff like that. But their biggest thing was like mysticism, which has to do with like enchantments, almost like putting like boons on themselves. And the more boons they put on themselves, the stronger they got. And then they had an effect where you could remove a boon for some other effect. So pretty much like, or remove an enchantment from yourself, and it would cause some kind of effect, right? So you would have these enchantments, and like you enchant yourself, and you have this enchantment for 10 seconds, but then you would use a skill that attacks an enemy, and then you would lose an enchantment, and if you lose an enchantment, you do like a big AoE attack or something around you, right? And that's kind of what they were all about. They could also transform into like avatars of the human gods. That was one of the big elite skills that they had, like any of the gods back then. So like Melandru, Dwayna, um, uh, uh, Grenth, Balthazar, like Elissa, like all of those, right? But yeah, so that was the other profession beside the Paragon. Okay, so that was so are we gonna see the dervish too? I don't know. I wouldn't bet on that part really, because the thing is that they had like such a specific connection to the human gods that it would be hard to make it kind of like, how do you make a like a dervish, like a char dervish? Like that would be kind of weird. I think. But the other one is Ritualist, and this is something that a lot of people have been loving, right? So Ritualists are almost like the cousins to necromancers, right? Where they deal with like these spirits, right? And you can kind of see their powers were these turquoise, right? You can even see that in the eye symbol, right? The eye symbol kind of represents the powers that they would use. And they would summon these spirits, right? And they would summon these spirits. There's different things that you could do. They were about healing. Sometimes you could like heal your friendlies, or you could create spirits that attack enemies, right? And they would just like kind of throw these attacks. You could have this, instead of like having a minion army like the necromancer has, you have a spirit army that's kind of like throwing like their attacks at them. There's different effects that they could cause. They would sometimes you could, or there was many skills where they would carry like an urn with ashes. So you would get an effect while carrying the urn, and then when you drop the urn, it would do like an AoE effect. We kind of see that with the Vindicator on the Saint Victor Elite, right, where the urn comes in front of you, and you can kind of release the urn to like do like an AoE heal. It was kind of like that, right? It was kind of like this, almost this, in the same way that that skill works. That's kind of how these urns were. I forgot what they were called, but they were like, I don't know if there's a specific like word for them. But yeah, so they would summon. You guys can kind of see. I didn't have it up, but you guys kind of see how these spirits kind of, how the color. I always love the color theme of it, right? Like having the color is always like really really cool. So I love this kind of turquoise color. But yeah, there were these ancient, like, they communed with the spirits and stuff like that, and yeah, and they would summon these like spirits, right? Like they would summon these spirits. Most of these look like that, right? They were these chained spirits. There was different types of spirits as well. I don't know if there was like other spirits. There's other spirits, but I don't know if they were if we can find it, even like recuperation. um I don't know if it gives me the spirit of recuperation. Yeah, so some of these other spirits look like this. They weren't like chained or anything, and they had like a bigger, and they look like they're like praying or something. Those are usually like the helpful ones, I want to say. Like most of the like the healing ones and stuff like that, it kind of look like that. Not all of them, but yeah. So a lot of people really liked the ritualist as like a profession. Like a lot of people really really liked the ritualists. So the ritualists are really really cool. We have an outfit in game that is like this. I think that's like almost the exact outfit, or like it's close to like what this looks like or whatever. A lot of people really really like them. And yeah, myself included. So it looks like we're kind of it looks like we're kind of going in that direction. You guys can kind of see down here, these are all the different professions, right? But yeah, so it looks like we're getting a ritualist. It looks like, that's obviously a ritualist outfit. This is obviously a Paragon outfit, and there's golden wings with a spear in hand. And there is the spirit that he's summoning, that's kind of the new style of spirits that we've seen during End of Dragons, right? We have Ritualists and End of Dragons that summon these spirits. It looks like that's coming back. It looks like they're doing this, right? And that's very exciting. I think that's probably, people are going to be so hyped for this, and this is exactly what people have been asking for. So I think this is a great step. How they're like adding these into the game is going to be very interesting to see. But nonetheless, I'm very excited, very very excited to see next week what that looks like, and some of the teasers. So yeah, it looks like the helmet might be actually Paragon. Like I was wrong because I was like, Paragon is never gonna happen. Ritualist is never gonna happen. But looks like ArenaNet is really listening, and this is great. I'm very, very, very excited. So this has been going on long enough. I will see you guys for the next teasers. Let me know what you guys think about all of this. And yeah, so the next teaser's coming out. I will be making videos on this, and we can speculate even more. But this was really good. I really liked where ArenaNet is headed. I really like where the game is headed. And I think with this next expansion, I think they're going to be doing some good stuff for Guild Wars 2. And you know, are you guys excited? Are you guys happy with what we read today and what we talked about? Like, let me know what you guys think down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. All right, bye guys.